Hello and welcome in, Loftsiders, to Loftside Banter. And on this week's show, or today's show, we're going to talk about week 3 coming up. We're going to make some predictions on week 3. We're going to look back at Thursday Night Football, and then we'll talk about a few of the headlines that are up in the sports world, if you will. So, without further ado, we'll start with the week 3 preview. Well, actually, we'll go back to Thursday night first. How does that sound? Thursday Night Football, Miami Dolphins at home against the or on the road against the Buffalo Bills. And it was a lot closer of a game than I thought it would be, considering how Miami has played. Now, with the Dolphins, they're now 0-3. The Bills are 3-0. 31-21 was the final score. Again, closer than I thought it really was. It seemed as if Miami was going to let this game get out of hand really early. They scored on the first drive. Buffalo immediately came back, scored on their first drive. Miami had a punt after that, and then from there, I believe the Bills scored again, so they're up 14-7. It looked like they were going to get at least a field goal. They missed that, and then Miami made it close for the half. Actually, it was 14-14 at the half. And division game. So obviously those are a lot closer than some of the other games that we see. Division rivals and division games like that always seem to be closer. They know each other a little bit better. Josh Allen, 22 of 28, 213 yards, 3 touchdowns. Look great. Tua, 22 of 34, 146 yards. So just over a 4-yard per catch average. 2 touchdowns and that late interception that just always seems to kill him. He seems to miss linebackers a lot. And we've seen it a couple of times this season. We saw it last week against the Patriots. He just, for whatever reason, seems to block out the middle of the field. And I don't know if it's just he's jumpy or whatever the case may be. It's just every time it seems he misses a linebacker underneath. So it was just one of those typical interceptions that we've seen from him. With this game being closer and Miami 0-3, normally you could take a moral victory and kind of go, hey, the Bills look like they're the best team in the AFC East. We played them close. We only lost by 10 points, but you're 0-3 now. The moral victories are gone, especially with the amount of money that you're spending on this roster, all the different parts. I've said it over and over and over again. Mike McDaniel looks like he's lost. He just looks like he's lost now. And the locker room can't really be responding very well to that. It seems as if players are still showing up late. And when you're winning, that stuff seems to be okay to let go and people can overlook. When you're losing, not only can you not claim a moral victory, especially this early in the season, but everything gets magnified. And we're at a point where Miami's probably going to lose out on this season. This season is probably just going to go by the wayside. It's going to be a forgotten season, other than the fact that Mike McDaniel is going to get fired. So, again, it's great that they played a good team on a Thursday night pretty well. It's just you can't claim moral victories with the roster that you have. That roster should be contending. And it's very loosely with contending because the Bills are going to run away with it. It's a down division this year. You should be contending for a wild card spot with the roster that you have. All the pieces are in place for Mike McDaniel's system to be successful. It just isn't. They're struggling to get to the line and get a playoff before the play clock is up. This is supposed to be a quick, easy is not the word I'm looking for. A quick offense. Boom, 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 boom. You're supposed to run a play, and be able to catch the defense off guard. You're supposed to be doing all that stuff, and they're doing none of that. And then the mistakes that are compiled on top of all of this, sorry, it's just not good enough. So this Dolphins team, 3 games in, and again, I told you last episode, by week 4, we kind of know who you are. You can improve throughout the season, but you're typically going to make the same mistakes. You're typically going to run into the same issues unless there are drastic changes to a roster or somebody steps up or somehow learns a new skill. So I think the Miami Dolphins, again, I don't think they're going to go over, but they're a team that is going to make mental errors. They're probably mostly checked out at this point to the coaching staff, and we're at a point where Tua is going to make the same kind of mistakes that he has been making. So this team is, I don't foresee them being worse than the Jets. I foresee them probably third place, the Jets fourth place, which opens the door for New England to finish second, which is a step, a good step, a great step in the right direction. With that being said, we have the Patriots game coming up. Loftside Bantr will be there against the Pittsburgh Steelers, who did not look great last week. This is a game where it looks, the matchup predictors a coin flip, literally 50.5% to the Pittsburgh, 49.1% to the Patriots. That's on ESPN. Again, I think it's an absolute coin flip. Whoever makes the least amount of mistakes will win this game. And it's not hard-hitting analysis. It is, these two teams are probably squared up to be very equal. I think Pittsburgh has more veteran talent than the Patriots do. I think the Patriots are relying on a lot of young guys, which is great. You're getting them in there. They're learning from mistakes. They're going to make them, though. Drake May has more passing yards than Aaron Rodgers right now. By like 50 yards. Again, not by a lot, but has looked decent. The run game needs to get a little better for the Patriots. You're looking at a defense that cannot stop the pass on the Patriots sideline, and Aaron Rodgers, who doesn't make mistakes all that often. He's made a few more, as I try to get this microphone to be a little closer. He's made a few more in the later years of his career, but he's known for being able to control a game, being able to not make the mistakes that maybe a young quarterback will do, forcing a ball or whatever the case may be. I saw it last week, though, where he struggled. He made 2 interceptions last week. You have guys that are going to be out of this lineup. As I look down at some of the players that are going to be out, Joey Porter's out. Deshaun Elliott is out. Derek Harmon is questionable, probably out. Alex Highsmith out. The 3 big questions for the Patriots. I say 3 big. There's 2 big ones, which is Keon White. It says he'll probably be back. He was out with an illness. And Christian Gonzalez. Christian Gonzalez is going to help, especially with the wide receivers that the Steelers have. So if Christian Gonzalez can play and it is 100%, there's the question mark, is what percentage is he at? Because this pass defense the Patriots have has not played very well. Carlton Davis has been questionable here or there. Alex Austin hasn't been great. The safeties haven't been great. They're pretty much dead last in passing defense, which is something that Aaron Rodgers can take advantage of. So, again, this is going to come down to who can make what mistakes. We obviously saw the Steelers make a massive one last week with Caleb Johnson, but that was on special teams. This is going to be a very close game, and then to see how it turns out. The defense for Pittsburgh has given up 63 points already. So they're not stout by any stretch of the imagination. But they do have players in place. Jalen Ramsey is one that comes to mind that can help alleviate all this. Because, if you're taking Stephon Diggs completely out of this game, then, it's up to Kayshon Boutte, it's up to Kyle Williams, it's up to players like Hunter Henry to make plays. And with some players out, like Highsmith out, Hunter Henry could have a big game. So there's ifs on both sides. The line right now is Pittsburgh opens at 1.5. Again, I would love to see the Patriots win. My heart says I want the Patriots to win. My head says I think they'll probably make a few mistakes. And the Steelers will probably take advantage of them, especially if there's no Christian Gonzalez. I'd say Pittsburgh by field goal, and that hurts a bit. I always lean back on veteran talent more than I do rookies. I've always done that in fantasy football and everywhere else. I tend to do that. Next, we have the 2-0 Cincinnati Bengals without Joe Burrow heading to Minnesota to play the Vikings. That is also without J.J. McCarthy. So we're getting a backup QB Palooza game with Jake Browning, 2 touchdowns, 3 interceptions last week. He has the ability to control a game. He can't make those same mistakes that he did last week. Carson Wentz is who's starting for the Minnesota Vikings. And now this is an interesting spot for the Vikings and Kevin O'Connell, because Carson Wentz has been washed for years. And if Kevin O'Connell can take Carson Wentz and make him into a serviceable quarterback again, I think we're in a good spot for Kevin O'Connell to get any job that he wants, because he'll go and be a quarterback guru, quarterback whisperer, whatever you want to say. J.J. McCarthy, again, didn't look great last week. Didn't look great for most of the game week 1. But we have seen him play well in small spurts. Carson Wentz hasn't played well since before his injury in Philadelphia, where he looked like he was going to take the team to the Super Bowl and ended up being hurt for the entire postseason, and the Eagles still went on and beat the Patriots with a backup quarterback. Not sour about that in any way, shape, or form. I'm actually very sour about that. But the game opens up with Minnesota 5.5-point favorites. And I think that's because people are valuing the defense. They're valuing Carson Wentz more than Jake Browning. And again, Jake Browning, 3 interceptions last week, did not look great. But that's who they're going with. They picked up Mike White, who was a Jet and a Dolphin for a little while. They picked up Sean Clifford, who was the backup in Green Bay for a while. It's disappointing because the Bengals have all the weapons, as I mentioned before. They have all those weapons, and they have a guy that led the league in passing yards and passing touchdowns and everything else, and now he's out for 3 months. I still think Minnesota is going to take this until I see Jake Browning consistently play without making mistakes like that. And I'm still projecting probably 2 interceptions out of him. But Jordan Mason takes over the running back position. He was pretty much the best runner that they had. Aaron Jones was a great out of the backfield receiving running back in week 1. Didn't do much week 2. He's out now on IR as well. So you're going to see some backups in a couple key positions for the Vikings. But they still have Justin Jefferson. They still have a very good defense. Ivan Pace Jr. has been a tackle machine. So I think that Minnesota wins this game by touchdown. I think it's still close. I certainly think it's still close. We go to Tennessee, where the Indianapolis Colts are on the road to play the Titans. I could have said that a whole lot easier another way, but that's okay. Cam Ward threw his first touchdown pass last week, has yet to throw an interception, not to jinx him, knock on wood here, but he's looked like a young kid who's not making those mistakes that you expect a young quarterback to make. I thought he was probably the best available for a quarterback at number 1. I don't necessarily think he's the best QB prospect we've seen in a long time, but again, if he comes in and he doesn't make mistakes and he can keep a team in it, there's no reason to think that he won't be very good by the end of the season. He's just got to learn all those different ins and outs of the NFL, and going from program to program in college, sometimes you pick up some bad habits, you pick up whatever. Again, he's done fine. It's just Tennessee's 0-2. They weren't really projected to be a contending team in this division. It certainly wasn't looking like that the Indianapolis Colts were going to be leading this division, but yet here we are. Daniel Jones, no interceptions as well. 588 yards in 2 games comparative to Cam Ward's 287. So again, that tells you right there. They're playing a little conservative with that offense in Tennessee. Daniel Jones has looked like a brand new quarterback. And I think that's probably going to spell. Now, Daniel Jones has had a few injuries here or there. Again, playing in New York, he had a terrible offensive line, not a good put together team. Now he has a great offensive line. And Tyler Warren has looked great. Jonathan Taylor looked very good over the last 2 weeks. He looks like the Jonathan Taylor that we remember. Everything is kind of falling into place for Indianapolis. Houston hasn't looked great. CJ Stroud, it may be time to have a conversation about CJ Stroud, and we'll get to him in a minute. But this division was not supposed to play out this way. And if you look back at my prediction for that, it's already very wrong. So, Daniel Jones, new life for him. I'm happy for him. Injuries is a bunch of injuries that are questionable. Kalen Mullins is questionable. Jarvis Brownlee is questionable for Tennessee. Bryce Oliver questionable. Devondre Sweat is out. Their big defensive tackle is out. But, I mean, Indianapolis beat Miami pretty badly, 33-8. Won by a point because of stupidity on Denver's part last week. The games in which Tennessee has played, they lost to Denver 20-12. A lot closer than I thought it would be, especially with that defense. But again, I mean, you only got 12 points. You didn't get any touchdowns. And then they lost 33-19 to the Rams. So, I mean, they're not playing as bad as I thought they would be. It's just going to take time. And I don't necessarily think the coaching staff in place in Tennessee is the right one right now. I think they may choose to find a better option if they're out there by the end of the year. But again, not playing terrible football for a team that's so young and that's developing different aspects of the team, especially the importance of the quarterback and everything else like that. It's 3.5 points to Indianapolis. I think you hammer that 3.5 points. I think they're going to win by more than a touchdown or more. Again, I'm not here to give you gambling advice. That's just what I would do. The next game is the Houston Texans, who are going on the road against the Jacksonville Jaguars. CJ Stroud, as I mentioned during the preview of this division, went through a sophomore slump and didn't look as good as he did year one. With that, the question I asked was, is he going to break out of that? There are people that go through that sophomore slump and can come out of it better. Teams start to learn you a little bit. They start to know how to scheme against you. You figure out how to be better than that. Even Tom Brady kind of went through that. I believe Tom Brady, the second year that he started, the Patriots missed the playoffs. They won the Super Bowl the year before. They missed the playoffs after that. Teams kind of knew, and he went back and redeveloped himself into a better quarterback, and the rest is history, right? CJ Stroud seems like he's having trouble doing that. 32 of 51 this year, 1 touchdown, 1 interception, 395 yards. That's it. I mean, 2 games, 1 touchdown, 1 interception. Again, not huge on the mistake side, but definitely not throwing touchdowns like he's used to. He seems like he's forcing the ball to Nico Collins most of the time. You know, their run game is meh. Nick Chubb and Joe Mixon, you know, they're doing okay, but they're averaging about 50 yards a game. So you're not really close to having a 100-yard rusher in those games so far. Trevor Lawrence, 43 of 73, 4 touchdown passes, but 3 interceptions. So, again, not playing the best football. And Trevor Lawrence is that inconsistent that we've seen all that time. And it's frustrating because he was drafted, obviously, number 1 overall and drafted to be the guy, and he just hasn't seemed to put it together. And injuries haven't helped. So, Travis Etienne has looked pretty good, 30 carries, 214 yards. I mean, he's over 100 yards more than the leading rusher for the Texans. Jacksonville is 53 points for, 41 against, so a positive point differential, whereas the 0-2 Houston Texans obviously don't have a positive point differential. The Texans have only scored 28 total points. They've given up 34. So again, not terrible, but I lost to the Rams 20-19. So two tough teams, two very tough teams. The Rams are expected to be in the playoffs. The Bucs look like they're probably going to be in the playoffs, at least through 2 weeks. The Jaguars beat the Panthers week 1 and lost to a Joe Burrow-less Bengals. So, even with 3 interceptions, they couldn't beat the Bengals. Line right now is 1.5 for the Jaguars. This might be kind of the turnaround game for the Texans. I think the Texans win this game. I think this is the game that they come out and they win. I think they win probably by a touchdown. It's not going to be easy. It's just two teams, especially with that talent, they lose focus really quickly. Really quickly. So we'll see what happens with that. I think the Texans win this game on the road. I don't necessarily think it's a get-right game. This is the weakest opponent in the first 3 weeks. And I think this is where they probably match up better. The Panthers are at home. The 0-2 Panthers are at home against the 1-1 Falcons. Michael Penix, again, hasn't thrown a ton of touchdown passes, but looks pretty good and might be the best-looking quarterback other than Jaden Daniels, but Jaden Daniels can be out this week. Again, we'll get to that. But Michael Penix has looked really good comparative to Caleb Williams. I think he's probably on a level with Drake May right now. Jaden Daniels obviously has been the best so far. J.J. McCarthy hasn't looked great, obviously missed the whole first year. So, I mean, I think Michael Penix might be kind of the real deal. He's still going to improve. I mean, he didn't have a ton of playing time last year. The Falcons have Kirk Cousins sitting behind him that I think he's probably trade bait at this point, but I don't know if teams are necessarily going to pay that. But with all the injuries to quarterbacks, Kirk Cousins' name is going to come up. Michael Penix, no interceptions through 2 games. Bryce Young, still struggling. He's had to throw the ball 90 times in the past 2 games because they've been behind. Defenses hasn't been great. They have lost to the Jaguars and they've lost to the Cardinals. And again, 27-22 lost last week, so they were in it a little bit. Tate McMillan's looked great, though. I should say Tet. Tet McMillan has looked great. 11 catches, 168 yards. Great weapon for Bryce Young to have. It's just, can Bryce Young get him the ball? You don't have an over 100-yard rusher. Bijan Robinson played really well last week. Atlanta's 3.5-point favorites. I think Atlanta still wins this game. I think they cover. Even on the road, division game. Rams and Eagles, two 2-0 teams, were in Philadelphia this week. 3.5-point favorites. Matthew Stafford looked pretty good, thrown for 500 yards already. Jalen Hurts hasn't thrown a touchdown pass, hasn't thrown an interception. 253 yards. So he's over doubled. Stafford's doubled him. I liked the back and forth last week with Jalen Hurts didn't throw for over 100 yards, and Chris Jones decided to say, oh, you didn't even throw for 100 yards. And he said, that's fine, we're winning. We've won the game. It doesn't matter. I like that kind of back and forth. And it's not something that I'm super excited about for the Eagles going forward. I was a Jalen Hurts criticizer for a while. I can't really criticize him anymore because, well, they won the Super Bowl last year with him as their starting quarterback call here. In a pass-happy league, Jalen Hurts is not a top echelon quarterback when it comes to throwing the football. Does that mean they can't win? Obviously not. But he hasn't been great this year. I mean, he's only missed 9 passes out of the 45. He's 11. 34-45. It may not be what they need to win. It certainly helps to have a guy that can sling the ball all over the field. But we've seen teams that have quarterbacks that can do that not win. So I still think the Eagles are one of the best put together teams with the Ravens and the Bills. But I don't know. It concerns me early on. And again, by week 4, if he's made some strides over the next couple of weeks, I think we know who he is. Doesn't mean they can't win. They've already proven they can. The Rams obviously have won a Super Bowl II with Matthew Stafford. The Eagles at home, I'm taking the Eagles at home. Pretty similar defenses, a couple of injuries here or there. Will Shipley will be out running back. Cameron Williams out with a shoulder thing. He's going to be out for a while. Tanner McKee, the backup quarterback, he's looked great in preseason games. He may be the gunslinger they have on the roster, but I think we're going Eagles. Eagles here. Jets and Tampa Bay Bucks. The Jets are going on the road to Tampa Bay to play the 2-0 Buccaneers. The Buccaneers are 6.5-point favorites. I would hammer that as well. Justin Fields is out. Not that probably means a whole hell of a lot, but Tyrod Taylor is the guy that's taking over. And Tyrod Taylor is actually the veteran that was on the Browns when Baker Mayfield was drafted. And Baker had some great things to say about him all this week, how grateful he is and everything else like that. But Baker Mayfield, throughout the course of a whole game, does not look great. 2-minute drill looks amazing. If they're going to give an MVP for just the 2-minute drive, it's Baker Mayfield. But 5 touchdowns, no interceptions. Bucky Irving probably needs to do a little bit better running the football for them, give themselves a 2-headed attack there. But the Jets are the Jets. With Tyrod Taylor, I don't foresee it being a whole lot better. You may have more consistent and, again, less mistakes. I think Tyrod Taylor is probably a better overall thrower than Justin Fields. Just that Tyrod Taylor's done it more, and I've seen it more. But 34-32 loss to Pittsburgh, 30-10 loss to Buffalo, both at home. So they've already lost 2 home games. Now they're going on the road for the first time. I mean, the Buccaneers 23-20 over Atlanta and then 20-19 over Houston. Again, they're not blowing people away. So if the Jets can keep it close, I mean, anything can happen. It's just if Baker Mayfield has the ball last in the last 2 minutes, you've lost the game. That's just how it's gone over the last 2 games. What do you say, 6.5? I think the Buccaneers win this game by more than a touchdown. Next 1 o'clock game, we have Las Vegas Raiders going on the road to face the Jaden Daniels-less Commanders. And Jaden Daniels was a starting quarterback in my fantasy team. So this is problematic for me. He'll be out. It'll be Marcus Mariota. And again, Marcus Mariota's been in this situation with the Commanders before and has played pretty well. I think he beat the Cowboys last year. So I don't foresee the Raiders necessarily winning this game. Again, it's going to come down to can Marcus Mariota move an offense like Jaden Daniels had been doing. Geno Smith, 1 touchdown to 4 interceptions so far this year. And I'm going to look at the Raiders' depth chart. Is Kenny Pickett as the backup? I think you're going to see Kenny Pickett at some point this year. I think you're going to see Kenny Pickett at some point this year. I don't foresee Geno Smith being the guy if he's going to continue with that ratio. The Raiders have Ashton Genty, who's only gotten 81 yards rushing so far. I think we're probably going to have to build up to that. But Austin Eckler on the Commander side, he's out for the year. So now you're with Ja'Cory Krosky-Merritt, who was their 7th-round pick this year, who they absolutely love. And they've mentioned it a couple of times. The coaching staff has mentioned it. He comes from Arizona, but 14 carries, 99 yards, but he's going to get the bulk of the carries now. He's the guy. 6.5-point favorites. Like I said, I'm still taking the Commanders at this point. Noah Brown is also out, and Jonathan Jones, I believe, just went on the IR. Actually, he went on the IR a couple weeks ago, so not new news. I don't, unless Genty can help this offense, because right now they're very one-dimensional, and even that isn't great. If Geno Smith is your one-dimensional quarterback, you're going to be in trouble, because again, 4 interceptions already, and that includes 1 against the Patriots, and so that means 3 last week. Next, 1 o'clock game is the 2-0 Packers traveling to Cleveland to play the Browns. 7.5-point favorites, I would take that as well. Joe Flacco, this is where it's confusing, and I said it last episode. Why are they not playing a younger kid? Joe Flacco at 40 years old is not your future as the Cleveland Browns. And again, if somebody's not ready, somebody's not ready. But at some point in time, you're going to see Dylan Gabriel, who went 3 for 3 and threw a touchdown pass last week. Garbage time touchdown, obviously, but counts just the same. And Shedeur Sanders is going to be in this conversation at some point in time. The Browns essentially, I think they still have 4 on their roster. They do have 4 on the roster. It's just Deshaun Watson is out. And he's going to be out. I wouldn't expect him to play. But Dylan Gabriel's second, Shedeur Sanders is third. They still have Bailey Zappi, I think, on the practice squad or something like that. It was essentially, let's just get every quarterback we can, throw something against the wall and see what works. And if that's the way it's going to go, that's the way it's going to go. Quinson Junkins, 10 carries last week, 61 yards, so 6 yards a carry. He's their leading rusher on the Browns. Didn't even play week 1. Myles Garrett has looked like Myles Garrett. Not that it's making any difference. I'm glad he got the payday that he did, but he's not going to win anything in Cleveland. So, I would assume he's probably going to request a trade at some point in time again. But they got him to stop asking about it with a new contract. Jaden Reed is out. He broke his collarbone. Tucker Kraft, who had a great week last week for the Packers, questionable with a knee injury. I think he'll probably play. Out is Mike Hall Jr. He'll be out this week. And then a few offensive linemen who are questionable. For a team that outgained the Ravens last week and lost 41-17, and you say that, hey, the game was closer than how it looked, it's hard to say that. But I would take the 7.5 point. I would run with that. 4 o'clock games. 1-1 Denver Broncos, who gave a game away last week, had a young kicker, 60 yards, and they still made a mistake and gave it to him. The Denver Broncos with Bo Nix again. Are we going to have a sophomore slump with Bo Nix? He hasn't looked as good as he did last year. 2 games in, 4 touchdowns, 3 interceptions. And then Justin Herbert has looked phenomenal. Early MVP candidate. 44-61, 560 yards, 5 touchdowns, no interceptions. Omarion Hampton and that running game needs to play a little better to help make this a more balanced offense. Quentin Johnston looks good. Finally can catch a pass. Denver, again, 48 points for, 41 against. Again, gave the game away last week. Chargers under Harbaugh have looked really good. And again, they played Kansas City. Beat them finally. And then the Raiders, who looked like shit. So, the line is 2.5 points for the Chargers. I think the Chargers are going to win this game at home. Probably by a field goal. So, again, I would take the 2.5. Next, the New Orleans Saints travel to Seattle to play the 1-1 Seahawks. Now, the Saints haven't been out of games, but bad teams find a way to lose. We've seen it with Miami. We've seen it with the Browns. We've seen it with the Saints. They've lost by a combined total of 12 points. But they're a bad team. Spencer Rattler hasn't made a mistake yet, has looked better than I thought he would. I don't think he's by any means, I don't think he looks good to the eye test. But 52 of 80, 3 touchdowns, 420 yards passing. Again, he's not turning the ball over. That's what you want a young quarterback who's probably not going to be your starter past this year, or even probably through the full year. But that's what you want a young quarterback to do. Put yourselves in a position to win. He's done it both games. Not something I would rely on. Sam Darnold has passed for more. 2 touchdowns, 2 interceptions. Again, he's looked like Sam Darnold from the past. He makes some plays, but he has not looked great. Kenneth Walker has, if he can stay healthy, has looked pretty good. Alvin Kamara has looked pretty good. Leading receiver for the Saints is Juwan Johnson, their tight end. He's looked pretty good. Defense has played fairly well. They've been on the field a lot, but they've played fairly well. Seattle's in last place as every other team in the NFC West is 2-0 except for them. But they did beat the Steelers last week. I think that they beat this. I think it's probably closer than the 7.5. I think it's probably touchdown or less. So I would take the points with the Saints, the plus 7.5. Cardinals, and the Cardinals traveled to San Francisco, both 2-0. Mac Jones, 3 touchdowns last week. Mac Jones is back, right? Everybody, everybody hold on a second. We've seen this before. Mac Jones can look good. He has a lot of weapons around him. He'll probably look better than what we think he'll look like. But if you're depending on Mac Jones to be the guy, I don't know what to tell you. Brock Purdy is questionable. Might be back this week. Kyler Murray, I said it at the earlier show this week, runs a 30, 40-yard gain, throws a great pass, and then like 2 plays later makes a boneheaded play. He's done it throughout his whole career. They have the Arizona Cardinals a 1.5. If Brock Purdy plays and he's healthy, I think you got to go with the 49ers where they're healthy. On the notion that Brock Purdy plays, I'll take the points at home with the 49ers. And again, I'm the guy that's sitting here looking at the Cardinals and going, they've done everything they need to do by winning 2 games. They didn't blow out either one of those teams, but they did beat the Saints. They beat the Panthers, 2 bad teams. Now they get their first taste of at least a good team, hopefully at full strength. We'll see. I'm going to take the 49ers plus 1.5 at home. If Brock Purdy plays, if Mac Jones plays, I'll give it to him. I'll give Mac Jones the benefit of the doubt and say that either quarterback plays, they're going to cover the 1.5 at home against the Cardinals. That's the final ruling. That's it. Cowboys 1-1 go on the road to Chicago to play the Bears, who are 0-2. The discussion this week with a lot of the analysts for the NFL has been, is Caleb Williams the guy? Is this it for Caleb Williams? What's going on with Caleb Williams? And Dan Orlovsky was the one that has said, and I tend to agree with him, and I tend to agree with this on as a whole for all of sports, whether that's a quarterback, a coach, a manager if you're talking soccer. There has to be some time given to some of these players. Now, I thought Mac Jones was given enough time in New England to understand that, like, hey, this is who he's going to be with the team that's constructed and everything else like that. He has come out and said that he was stopped being coached because Bill Belichick hated him. Whether that's true or not, I'm sure we'll never know officially. Caleb is in a new system with new players. He has been given the offensive line that he needs. He's been given weapons that he needs. And he's been given an offensive-minded coach. But it's going to take time. All last year, he did not have an offensive-minded coach. He did not have a lot of different things for him as a rookie to be successful. With those things in place now, yes, he has to play better. That's not without question. That's without question. He has to play better. But for a guy who has had so much spotlight on him at USC, I believe he was at Oklahoma before that, if I'm not mistaken. I could be wrong. But at USC, pretty much being known that you were the number 1 overall pick, the Bears seem to, at least what has come out, is that the Bears were, hey, this is the guy. We're not going to really look at anything else. And, you know, there's some rumor that they were looking at Drake May highlights, but they would put all the bad ones in first, so that way all the scouts and stuff will go, oh, yeah, he's definitely not the guy and stuff like that. Whatever. there's got to be some time for him to develop with the current system in place, with the current personnel in place. 2 games does not answer whether or not you are the guy. I know I've asked that question on this podcast, but the more I think about it is these franchises are spending so much money on players and everything else that, yes, you want immediate success. Everybody does. Everybody wants immediate success in this league. Sometimes you have to endure some pain. And I'll bring it back to the Patriots for me. The problem with rebuilding, and I know where Bears fans are coming from, and I'm going to understand that this is the 4th year of a rebuild under GM Ryan Poles. And 4 years under one GM to really have not gained any position other than first-round picks and number 1 overall picks and hoping they develop into what they need them to do is a long time. And if anything, at the end of this, Ryan Poles is probably going to be looking for a job. I think whoever the Bears bring in as a general manager, whether it's after this year or not, is going to have to live with Ben Johnson because there's so much hype with him. So you're either resetting yourselves from a GM up and leaving the coach in place, or you're going to have to hit hard reset again in probably 2 years. And I'd like to think that Caleb Williams is going to figure it out by then. I'd like to think that Ben Johnson's going to work with him and get him to where he needs to be. But it's very difficult to imagine it getting better quickly. I think it's going to take time of the season and everything else like that. They got absolutely destroyed by Detroit last week. It was a get-right game, as I had mentioned. The Cowboys didn't look great against the Giants, but found a way to win. And again, good teams find a way to win. Bad teams find a way to lose. The Cowboys are the Bears are 1.5-point favorites at home. I'm taking the Cowboys to cover that. Until the Bears can prove that they can win and win consistently, I think taking an underdog in this game is probably your best bet. CeeDee Lamb has looked great. Javonte Williams, 33 carries, 151 yards, 3 touchdowns. Again, not blowing the doors off of people, but looks like the running back of a couple of years ago, probably a step slower. Rome Odunze, 13 catches, 3 touchdowns, has looked good for the Bears. I'm taking Dallas in this game because until the Bears can prove it, until Caleb can prove it, until there's been enough time, the Bears are still in the same position that they're going to be in, and that's probably the bottom of this division. Your Sunday night game is the 0-2 Kansas City Chiefs versus the 0-2 Giants. What's the line? 6.5. I'd take that on the road against the Giants. Russell Wilson looked better last week. 618 total passing yards. Again, he's had to throw the ball everywhere. I still say he's washed. He's your leading rusher right now, which is not good for the Giants. Malik Neighbors has looked phenomenal, even with another bad quarterback situation. Patrick Mahomes is the leading rusher for the Chiefs, which is not good. But he has over 100 yards rushing. 123 to be exact, and 2 touchdowns. The receiving core is obviously decimated. They're in last place in the AFC West. They just counted out Xavier Worthy again. They've just counted out Christian Fulton, the cornerback. They've just counted out Mike Dana. Jalen Royals might make his debut, and I liked Jalen Royals, and I was hoping Jalen Royals would be drafted by the Patriots, but alas, he's in a Chiefs uniform, but hasn't played yet. No notable injuries right now for the Giants that I can see. Again, they've lost by a grand total of 9 points. They're still the Chiefs. There's still Patrick Mahomes under center on that team. There's still Travis Kelce. There's still, Chris Jones. There's still Andy Reid. They don't look good. They haven't looked good even when they were winning all those games last year. I've said it a couple of times now. They haven't looked good. But I think they're going to come out and they're going to win this game. I would take them with the point of being 6.5-point favorites. The Giants are going to have to prove that they're going to win football games. And they haven't done that in years. So I would take Kansas City in your Sunday night football game, and then your Monday night football game is a chef's kiss. The 1-1 Detroit Lions, off of that 52-point performance, are going on the road against the 1-1 Baltimore Ravens. Two of the better teams. This is going to be a must-see kind of game. Ravens are 5.5-point favorites right now, just because they played so well against the Bills, found a way to lose, and then played so well against the Cleveland Browns. Even though they were outgained and out possession and everything else like that, it's still the Baltimore Ravens, and I think the Baltimore Ravens have the most complete roster in this league. It's going to be so fun to watch. I hope it's a great game. I hope it's close until the end. But again, Lamar Jackson, 33 of 48, 434 yards, 6 touchdowns, no interceptions. Derrick Henry looked a little human last week, but I still think has the ability to run people over on a near consistent basis. Lions aren't going to go away, though, but they're on the road. And it's a tough place to play against a team that I think, again, has the most complete roster in this league. Even guys, Jair Alexander, they picked up. All guys like that. Taking a look at college football. Right now, we have some games going on. Notre Dame's look terrible, but they're playing Purdue right now. They're still ranked in the top 25, which is amusing to me. Florida State now in the top 10, up 7-0 over Kent State. Not really a game that I think should be anywhere close. You have Michigan and Nebraska, who started fairly recently. Tulane and Ole Miss started fairly recently. Syracuse is beating Clemson 24-14. I think Clemson has dropped off comparative to everything else. Florida Gators are going to be without 3 defensive linemen versus Miami. They haven't looked good all this season as well. And then one of the polls right now that has come out is Lenore Sellers came out with, let's see, ESPN polled 25 NFL scouts and executives to see who they projected as the top quarterback for the upcoming draft. These responses were varied as 7 different quarterbacks came back as the answer for QB1 among the 25 people asked. South Carolina's Lenore Sellers came back as the top vote getter with 8, edging LSU's Garrett Nussmeier with 7. I think Garrett Nussmeier is going to be, if not the top pick, a top 5 pick. And again, not think I'm saying anything really out there for an opinion. I just think he's looked great. I think he's probably the most, he's thrown 2 interceptions, but again, for a 6'1" quarterback, probably he's a little small. Lenore Sellers is 6'3". Again, we're talking about guys that have been right there. The next crop of quarterbacks that were mentioned, Carson Beck for Miami, obviously longtime Georgia Bulldog, got 3 votes. Oklahoma's John Mateer got 3 as well. John Mateer was Washington State prior to this. And again, he doesn't have numbers that blow you away, but he has really good dual threat. And I wouldn't necessarily, I really hope a team does some scouting on him for a dual threat quarterback, because they don't seem to be great in the NFL. Jaden Daniels has looked good. Obviously, injury now. The guys that can really be a total dual threat tend to get hurt a lot of the time. Penn State's Drew Aller had 2 votes. Sam Levitt for Arizona State has 1 vote, and Texas Arch Manning has 1 vote. Arch Manning is, again, takes time. Didn't play a ton last year. is now playing more often, has made quite a few mistakes. And if you're telling me to look at a Texas team with Arch Manning and say, "Oh, you have to count him out," I'm never going to do that. He's a Manning. They've been a thorn in my football loving career for most of my life. Peyton, Eli have been thorns in my side for the team that I support and everything else. He's a Manning. He's eventually going to figure it out. I don't now to say, hey, we're expecting greatness from the onset is, again, you have to expect some mistakes growing up. Do I think he's the best quarterback in the nation right now because his last name's Manning? No, he's played poorly. But he's made good plays. He's made a lot of bad plays, a lot more than, and he's under such a microscope that people are going to point those out more often than not. The poll should be considered more of a touchstone of the varied opinions than the scientific projection, is what it says here. Last season, we conducted the same poll heading into week 6. At that time, Colorado Shedeur Sanders led Beck 9 votes to 5. Among the 25 scouts and executive, Cam Ward got 1. It's also, before we go any further, it's also uncertain of who's going to declare. Sellers, Mateer, Levitt, and Manning all have eligibility after this. So you're looking at a lot of scouts saying there's physical talent there with Lenore, Sellers, comparative to all the tools that maybe some of the other quarterbacks do. Looking at some of the top stories, Tulsa for the first time since 1951 beat Oklahoma State 19-12 on Friday night. Not typically a team that you expect to beat a bigger team, Tulsa. Let's see what else we got here. We got Oklahoma playing Auburn right now. That's scoreless. That just started as well. WNBA, without Caitlin Clark, the Indiana Fever won their first round game, which is great to see a team without their star player. And again, we can get into all the specifics of who's the star and what league and whatever. Caitlin Clark is the number one name on everybody's list when they're coming to town. And for her to not be available and for her not to be playing and for your team to still win, that shows a lot for the Indiana Fever. So congratulations to them. Some NBA news. Tyler Hero is set to miss 8 weeks after surgery on his left foot. So right up until the beginning of the season, give or take. And then one of the other big things that we've seen recently is Luka Doncic has been a great player in this league for quite a few years now. Obviously, the trade last year from the Mavs to the Lakers still has people scratching their head, including myself. And we'll get into NBA stuff closer to the beginning of the season and everything else like that. But from the people that I've talked to and the stories I've read and everything else, Luka looks really good. And he looked pretty good in the basketball tournament, the summer tournament with Slovenia. And if this was the motivation to get him in shape and everything else like that, great. But even him in the shape that he was in, which most people would say is less than peak, I suppose, and I'm not one to talk by any stretch of the imagination, he's looked pretty good, which will signal kind of that new era for the Lakers. And, you know, LeBron can do whatever LeBron was going to do, whether he's going to sit there and pick football games and everything else like that. And I think, again, he holds teams hostage, and even the Lakers are not immune to this, in the sense that LeBron is LeBron James. The marketability is still there, and everything else like that. And for as many years as he's been as good as he has been, again, he's great for basketball. We're moving to a point where Luka Doncic will be the Lakers. And it irritates me that they just keep able to do stuff like this and get the players that they need to and whatever. But I mean, Luka's going to be good for quite a few years. Luka at this point is 26. He's still got at least 10 years at a high level. We've seen basketball players play past 36 at the level he is. Again, it all depends on your routine and the work that you put in and everything else like that. But it's going to be an encouraging thing to see Luka in the shape that he's going to be in coming back, and it's going to make the Lakers dangerous again, which as a Celtics fan is, suck. That's what we have for Loftside Banter today. We are going to hopefully do a show with the basketball experts that I bring on about the Kawhi situation with the Clippers, because it's very confusing. It's essentially a no-show job, as they've mentioned it a couple of times on all the various networks. Kind of like a mobster. You're going to get paid for not doing anything, and we're going to pay you this way instead of using it against the salary cap. And again, we'll go into all that different stuff, and we'll figure that out. But please visit us at loftsidebanter.com. That's loftside.bantr.com. It's loftsidebanter@gmail.com. And again, I'm appreciating the comments that come up on YouTube. I'm appreciating the growth that has happened with this, and we're going to continue to do so. There are some other things in the work as well. Some other things that we do is we're involving ourselves in the card collection industry as well. It's how we kind of help pay for all the stuff for the podcast, which is great. And we'll see you at some local shows and stuff like that coming up in the near future as well. And please stop by our Whatnot. It's under my personal name, which is Top of 2012. Eventually, we will change it over to what we think the card industry name will be, which has been picked out, but we just have to change it on there as well, and I'll make you aware of when that happens. For now, enjoy week 3. I hope your favorite team wins, except if you're the Pittsburgh Steelers. Sorry, Chef Resto, you know who you are. And other than that, we'll see you for the next show, hopefully after Monday Night Football, after hopefully a banger of a Monday Night Football game. All right, guys, have a good one.